Awesome. All right, y'all. I am so excited for tonight's call. So excited to get to hear from our very own Libby Perrington. I've known Libby for about 7 years now. I was thinking about that earlier today, Libby. That doesn't even seem right. About 7 years now. And one of the things I've really admired about her is her drive towards personal growth. She has always been somebody who has sought out mentorship as long as I've known her, who has always wanted to learn, who has always wanted to better herself. And it has just been so amazing these past couple of years to watch her be able to take that and be able to turn it around and pour into other women the past couple of years and really empower them to walk in their God-given purpose. So I don't want to take too much time tonight. I'm going to let her go ahead and jump in and introduce herself a little bit and share a little bit about her own journey as she kind of shares with us tonight. But we are truly in for a treat to get to hear from her. So, Libby, if you want to go ahead and take it away, I know we are all eager to hear from you.
Well, I am so excited to be here, and I will set a disclaimer. We got a new puppy like 2 weeks ago. I use the term puppy very lightly because he's 9 months and like almost 100 pounds. He's a Great Pyrenees. And him and my other dog, they're still figuring out if they like each other or not. So if at some point I'm like yelling and I use a mom voice, I'm really sorry. But they seem to be okay. But yeah, so like Chelsea said, we've known each other for about 7 years, and something that she said about, me loving personal growth, I think I have a lot of who I am to thank for this team and this culture in this industry is how I kind of turned out the way I did, I think, that and the grace of God. Because from a young age, like I was 20 when I first joined Plexus, and it's all about personal growth and self-development, and I really fell in love with it. And I think that that's really when God kind of like tapped me on the shoulder and was like, hey, like this is what I'm calling you to do. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but so I'm really excited to be here and to just speak to y'all because I have a weird thing where I love to public speak. It's one of my favorite things in the world. If I could do this all day, every day, I would. People are like, are you nervous? I'm like, no, not really. And I don't know if it's because I'm just good at public speaking or if I talk to myself all day and I have a lot of practice. But so I really believe that timing is everything. And you are not here by accident. And as I go through tonight, all of the things that I'm going to say, I really want you to remember that this is more about God's grace than your gift, because God is calling you to do something bigger. You can feel it, you know it in your heart that you are being pushed. Like you wouldn't have jumped on this call where some random girl on the internet is talking about walking in her God-given purpose. Like that is something that you were like, yeah, I think I'm gonna tap in on that. And something that I want you to remember, and this ties into what Chelsea had said when she first introduced me, is you're not going to walk away from tonight and be like, that's it, I'm done, I've got everything figured out. Like this is a lifelong journey. The self-growth journey is a lifelong journey. And mine kind of started, I'll briefly share my background just because that could take a whole hour and I don't want that to, but it is important. So when I was 6, I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy. If you're not familiar, Bell's palsy is a facial paralysis. So the left side of my face was the affected side. I got 3 episodes, 3 years in a row. And I was just told that I was going to grow out of it. Obviously, I did not. And I ended up having to have full facial reconstructive surgery done the summer before my freshman year. They took a nerve from the back of my leg and like cut here and put the nerve here. And then the following year, the summer before my sophomore year of high school, they took a muscle from the inside of my thigh and put it in my face. So when that nerve sends a signal to the right side of my brain, it shoots across the left and moves that muscle, which is incredible. So I really was faced with quite the deck of cards, I guess, if you will, from a young age. I always say that like God really decided that like third time was the charm for my Bell's palsy because I got it the 3 years in a row. But it has truly been the greatest gift that I have ever received. And I think a lot of times we look at the storms that we are given as a bad thing when really God is trying to show us where our strength lies. And that's exactly what this is. Like without Bell's palsy, I would not be speaking to y'all right now. Like that would have been a completely different path for me. Like this is my God-given purpose. So I wanted to make sure that I like shared that with y'all, a little bit of my story. But the self-growth really kind of started to take off and really hit home, after I turned 25 and my frontal lobe fully developed. Um, but a few years ago, I read The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And if you have not read that book, I highly suggest that you do so, because that was a turning point for me. Chelsea, if you could put that in the chat so that everybody can write that down, that would be lovely. And then another one is Do the New You by Stephen Furtick. He's a pastor of Elevation Church, and that one really rocked my world at the beginning of this year. So I'm going to be pulling things that really resonated with me from both of those books tonight. So one of the first things that I want you to keep in mind is, in order to step into the new you, you have to challenge the old you. So like the next hour, the next hour or even days to follow, like you will find yourself being caught between your comfort and your calling. And that's normal. And I want you to learn like how incredibly valuable you are, so that you don't settle for less than what you were called to be, because I think that that's really where we get stuck. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. But the first thing sorry, Harvey's got something, and I don't know if it's something he's supposed to have. Oh, it's a tennis ball. That's fine. He like strips the tennis balls and like takes the fabric off of them. So that'll keep him occupied for a while. So that's lovely. Okay, so this first part, I'm probably gonna step on your toes. I'm a really big fan of tough love. So one of the things that I pulled from Jack Canfield's book was to take 100% responsibility for your life. You had to take responsibility for the way that you see yourself, and you had to stop with the pity party. Like I feel like I could talk about like the lies that we're being told as Americans, and that we're entitled to a good life, and all that came from like the success principles. But I think we very much so live in a world where people are wanting handout after handout. But like looking at the people on here, I don't think that many of you struggle with the victim mindset. I think that most of y'all are here because you have looked fear in the face and said, watch me. But I will say that, like as far as the victim mindset goes, I could have easily slipped into that. And we all have something where we could easily slip into the victim mindset. Like for me, like it was when I had my first episode of Bell's palsy. Like I could have played the victim card my whole life and been like, oh, poor me. Like, but that is not what God had planned for me. And I am so incredibly grateful that God had something bigger. But we all still have some limiting beliefs, right? Like some days we get stuck in the pity party. So I want to give you some tools, because we're human, right? So I want you to write this down. Where do you need to get out of your head and into God's grace, right? If something doesn't go as planned, start asking yourself questions instead of blaming everyone around you. And I know that that's a very harsh truth, but sometimes excuses sound like logic. Like, how many times have you been like, oh, I can't do X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z? And it sounds logical, but really at the end of the day, you and I both know that that's an excuse. Like this morning, I did a Peloton workout and I only allotted a certain amount of time for it. I picked a 30-minute workout when I only had 15 minutes. That was my fault. Like, I can't blame the Peloton app for being a 30-minute workout when I only knew I had 15 minutes. Like, that's not logic, right? That's excuse. So some questions that I want you to ask yourself when things don't go as planned are, one, how did I create that? Right? Like everything there is, for every action, there is a reaction, right? So when something doesn't go the way that you had planned, I want you to be, okay, how did I create that? What was I thinking? What were my beliefs? What did I say or not say? Like heavy on that. What did I say or not say? Or what did I do or not do? Because I think right now we live in a world women especially, where we will sit back and not say anything and just let things happen. And then 5 years down the road, we're still mad about the same thing. But if we could have said, like, no, I don't want to work overtime every week. Okay, did you talk to your boss about it? No? Okay, then you don't get to cry about it. And I know that that's very tough love, but it's true. Like, we are in control of our lives, and every action that you take has a reaction, right? So that's what I mean when I say, like, what did I say or not say? Like, I'll keep going on this. So something else to keep in mind when you're going through a solution or a situation that didn't go as planned, is you can't get your stability from your situation, right? Or let your environment frame your emotions. It's okay to feel fear, but don't be fear, right? Because at the end of the day, you have more control than the enemy wants you to believe. So I'll say that one more time. It's okay to feel fear. Life is scary. Like, the world we live in is scary, but you don't need to be fear, because at the end of the day, you have way more control than the enemy ever wants you to believe. The enemy wants you to think that there's nothing you can do about it, and that is so not true. That is so not true. And when God sends us an opportunity, I want you to be ready. And I think of a lot of times we feel limited by what we've always known, and we need to smash those beliefs. So this is going to be, I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but a lot of the things I'm talking about right now, I hosted a in-person event back in June. So a lot of this is pulled from that. And this next exercise, we're going to go quicker because I got like 45 minutes left and I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit it all in. But I want you to figure out what you want. And what I'm about to say next really hit me in my heart when I first read it. And it's limiting yourself feels safer than believing in ourselves. I'm going to say that one more time. Limiting yourself feels safer than believing in ourselves. Because how many times have you been more faithful to your limitations than to your potential? I will say that one more time, because I think I like highlighted and circled that when I read that in that Stephen Furtick book. How many times have you been more faithful to your limitations than to your potential? Because it's scary. It's scary tapping into your potential. Like, at some point, like, after you get off this call, the devil is going to creep into your head and tell you that you are not enough. And that is so not true. That is the enemy tapping into, like, thieves don't break into empty homes. Like, the devil is not after you by accident. Like, he knows that God has equipped you with so many incredible things. So keep that in mind. Like, the next time you feel like you are more comfortable in your limitations, I want you to be like, oh no, like, I need to step into my potential here. So I also want you to think about this for a second, because I'm very guilty of this. And this is something that I have been working on for the last 7 years, and I think I'm just starting to understand. But don't disqualify yourself before you even have the chance to succeed. Is anybody else a self-sabotager? Because I am through and through. I will blow that up before it even has a chance to be sparkly and beautiful. Like, I will be like, nope, sorry, I gotta go. Like, no. I'm so bad at that. But don't disqualify yourself before you even have the chance to succeed. And also, this is something that I've really had to tap into recently too, is your history doesn't need to be your legacy. Just because I've been a self-sabotager doesn't mean I need to continue to be a self-sabotager. I can call it for what it is, call myself out, and move forward. So your history doesn't need to be your legacy. And I want this one, I might go on a tangent about and then come back in if that's all right. But become the you God created and called you to be, not what he created and called someone else. And I think in this industry specifically, social media makes it seem like we have to live up to a certain standard. Let me tell you something. I could never, ever share my home so beautiful the way that Chelsea does. This is a mess. But that's fine because that's not what God called and created me to do. He called and created Chelsea to come up with incredible systems and solutions for other women. That's not what he called me to do. And you're selling yourself short by trying to walk in somebody else's calling. I remember a perfect example of this is when I first joined Plexus, I was 20. I was dating a guy who was 11 years older than I was. So all of his friends were getting married and having babies. All of the women on this Plexus team were getting married and having babies. And I felt so incredibly less than because I was trying to walk in somebody else's calling. I don't beat myself up over it anymore like I used to, but I wonder where I would be if I would have just tapped into who Libby was supposed to be instead of trying to be who Chelsea, Steph, Brooke, who all of these other women were called to be because I was too busy comparing myself and not focused enough on who God had called me to be. So that is something that I clearly feel so incredibly passionate about is become the you God created and called you to be, not what he created and called someone else to be. And also like, don't live someone else's dream. I come from a family of like very like 9-to-5ers and they think that I'm insane. I'm like, that's fine. But like, I'm not going to get a 9-to-5 job just to please y'all. Like, that's like, I don't really care. Don't limit your life and live someone else's dream because then like you're disqualifying what God has equipped you to do by doing that. And someone else out there needs their gifts or your gifts. Somebody needs you to step and walk in the life that God has created for you. And another thing, sorry, there's sirens going by. I don't know if y'all can hear that. Welcome to Chicago, I guess. It's fine. But the devil also can't take away what God has put in you, right? So I will ask y'all this and we can take like 30 seconds while I take a drink of water, but I want you, if you're taking notes right now, what is the one thing that God is calling you to do right now? Just like take a quick minute. Like, what is something that you feel that God is calling you to do right now? And that could be anything. That can be in any area of your life. This is so much fun. I'm having the best time. I'm serious. If I could do this all day, every day, I totally would. If I could just chit chat. Okay. So as y'all finish writing that, how are you feeling about it? Are you excited? Are you scared? Are you all over the place? Like, is there mixed emotions? I know for me, whenever I write down something I want to achieve, I get really, really excited and then I get really, really scared and it makes me feel like I'm crazy. But what I'm about to say was something that like I think about every single time I write down a big goal is don't let the devil tell you that your faith is fake just because your feelings are all over the place and you don't see a way forward. Do not let the devil tell you that your faith is fake just because your feelings are all over the place. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. Like, we are all human here, and it is completely normal to get really excited and be like, oh, wait, how would I even do that? That's normal. Don't cut yourself short and be like, oh, well, that must not be it. No, that's it. That's it. If that's in your heart and it's been in your heart, that is for you. So don't let the devil make you think that your faith is fake. And don't forfeit what God gave you because of a feeling. I'll say that one more time too. Don't forfeit what God gave you because of a feeling. You're going to feel fear. You're going to feel all of these things, but don't forfeit that dream that God just put in your heart because of it. And stop making lack your label. Like, oh, I can't do that because I lack X, Y, and Z. Knock it off. The next time you think that you're lacking something, I want you to write down 3 things that you're incredible at. I want you to write, like, stop making what you lack your label as to why you can't do something. And this kind of ties back to what I said earlier, is sometimes it seems the enemy believes in our potential more than we do. Right? Like, sometimes it seems like the devil is like coming after us because he believes in our potential more than we believe in the potential of ourselves. And you have to learn what that voice sounds like and tell it to shut up, because no one can curse what God has blessed. And when you try new things, step into new places, and you've never been there, you commit to growth, which is a messy process. Like Chelsea had said earlier, like, we've been at this for 7 years. This is still a messy process. And this self-growth journey will continue to be a messy process until the day that I die. Like, when you sign up for this, you're signing up for a messy process, and that's okay. But this is something that I struggle with. Don't make that process harder by expecting perfection, because that's not real, especially your first time out the gate, you know? Like, don't go into something new thinking you have to be perfect at it, because it's your first time doing it. Like, do you expect babies to be born knowing how to walk, talk, and like take care of themselves? No. Like, I don't expect my dog to not know that he can't chew up when he's currently chewing up. Like, it's a messy process, and I'm not going to expect perfection. So don't expect perfection out of yourself and make this process harder. And I'll say this too, like, how many of y'all haven't posted something because it was just a little bit off? Like, just a little, you're like, somebody's gonna notice that. Are you for real? Probably not. And I will share this because I struggle with this a lot. And back Memorial Day, I had created a reel, and it was just something short. And it was talking about, like, only 2 people have ever died for your freedom, Jesus Christ and the American soldier. Like, make sure you thank both today. And for the life of me, I could not think of a caption that like went as well with that, because that was like a big bold post. So I just ended up, it was just an American flag. That was all my caption was, but I almost didn't post it. I almost did not post it. That video has over, like, I want to say like over 1,000 shares and like 80,000 views. Like, that impacted so many people. Like, how many people are you not impacting because you're afraid of like the tiniest little thing? Like, stop nitpicking yourself. Like, y'all, that is so many people that were sharing that, and then people in their feed were not only like seeing my stuff, but also like the goodness that I was sharing. So, like, just post the dang thing. Like, even it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? I want to circle back to what you feel called to do, because I know that I had y'all write that down. And I want to circle back to it because it's going to cause you growing pains. You know, I asked God for patience, and I moved to Chicago to live with my now fiance. That is patience. Living with a man, it takes patience, right? That is growing pains, right? So in a man who just leaves clothes everywhere, but whatever, it's fine. And randomly gets a dog on a Tuesday, but it's fine. We love him and everything is great. But when you start to do what you feel called to do, it's going to cause you some growing pains. And when you start this journey, and as you get further into it, the old you is going to try to make a comeback. Okay. So for fear to shut up, you have to step up. And I'll say that one more time. For fear to shut up, you have to step up because God put strength in you. And sometimes we don't make peace with our strengths because we know if we do, we're responsible to use them. I will say that again. Sometimes we don't make peace with our strengths because we know if we do, we're responsible to use them. I will tell you the first time, I keep saying the first time, I don't think that I told y'all that I was a part of Plexus and then I left to go to the influencer world. It was awful out there. I hated it, but that's a whole nother story. But the first time that I was in this, I wasn't making peace with the fact that I was meant to be an incredible leader because I knew that if I did make peace with that, I would end up being on calls like this and helping other women live out their dreams. And that's scary, but I had to make peace with it because that's what God is calling me to do. Right. Oh, this one hit me like a ton of bricks. Sometimes we let our complaints get in the way of God's compliments. Sometimes we let our complaints get in the way or cancel out God's compliments. Like sometimes we get so caught up in the negative that we are forgetting what God is telling us. Like, oh, I don't have the strength to do that because I'm not like so-and-so. Okay, well, maybe let's not let an impression of someone else become an insecurity about ourselves. Like, I will use Chelsea as another example of not letting an impression of someone become an insecurity about ourselves. I'm like, our house is a disaster, but like, I'm not going to let like Chelsea's home be an insecurity about mine. Like, we are in different seasons. Like, that's like, I moved an entire pile of junk mail behind my laptop because it was sitting here and I didn't want y'all to see that it was a mess. But like, I'm not gonna let that in insecurity. I'm just gonna let it be like, yeah, that's my life right now. But like, I'm not gonna tear myself down about it. And I think social media has just made it seem like everybody else's shimmery, shining, beautiful light is how they are all the time. And I can tell you as an, I don't want to say ex-influencer because I still share all the things I love, but everything behind the camera is a shit show. I'm sorry for the language, but like, it is not as beautiful as what it seems. Like, I can tell you, like, I would take videos and then I would sit and be like hunched editing like this, but this angle here, me looking like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, is not what you see in that beautiful curated video that I posted. So don't let an impression of someone that you see on the internet become an insecurity about yourself. So because only you can pull off what God is calling you to do. At the end of the day, like, only you can do that. And destiny is often hidden in your difference. Is Aaron Rodgers still on this call? I wish she was. Oh, we'll have to send the recording. But when we were at convention in Vegas, her and I were talking, and we are talking about like all the mom accounts, and Aaron is like, she's like, I'm great at a lot of things, but I'm not exceptional at one. I'm like, girl, I think that it is most moms. I was like, that is what you need to be showing up and sharing. Like your difference or your destiny is hidden in your difference, right? Like, my difference is Bell's palsy. That is my destiny, right? Like, that is it. Like, God has equipped us for these things, and God chooses you even if you would never choose yourself. Like, God picked you for those dreams and for those goals, even if you would never choose yourself for that, because he knows how he made you. Okay. I'm gonna skip this next part because I'll make another video about it. Well, I've kind of got some time and I'll kind of touch on it a little bit, but I have an iPad. Hold on one second. I'm not like a total iPad kid, but like, I do love my iPad. Actually, this was a gift from Plexus forever ago. It's really old, but I have a living, breathing Pinterest board. Actually, you can see that this is like the first thing that I pulled up. If you don't have Pinterest, if you don't have the app, I highly suggest you re-download it. And you make a living, breathing dream board. Like, I want it to only be positive quotes about all the things. Yes, hello, Harvey. About all the things that you want to achieve. And I want you to spend time every day scrolling through that, because this to me continues to pour life in me. Like, it's showing me like the clothes that I want to wear. It's showing me what I want our home to look like. It's showing me what I want my faith to be like. It's just like, it is a living, breathing vision board. And I will, Chelsea, I'll do a whole like YouTube on that, and we can send that out. Because that I do want to go, I would need to go a lot more in depth on, but I don't want to like keep y'all here all night. So that's great. Right now you're like, that's great, Libby. Like, Jeffrey, leave it. Leave it. You were not playing with that. That is not kind. Come here. That wasn't nice. I'm so sorry. Yes, my dog's name is Jeff. That was not my pick, but whatever. Okay. So you're like, okay, cool, Libby. Like, I hear you. Like, I have what God is calling me to do. That's great. But like, now what? And that is where most self-development books stop. Is everybody will get you fired up on like, dream these big dreams, and then they're like, okay, peace out, see you later. And I hate that. I don't know why it's like that. I don't know why people don't teach how to set goals. There's enough room for success for everybody. So what I want you to do is to break it down. Stop looking at the whole staircase, right? Like, take some of that pressure off yourself. And I want you to think about it in this term. Like, I know you aren't where you want to be yet, but if you were, what would you do? And I remember the first time I heard that, I'm like, well, what do you mean? If I knew, I would do it. Like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, but like, what would you do? And when you really sit and think on that, you do know exactly how to get there. You're just looking at all of it, right? Harvey, that's Jeffries. Okay, I don't have time for this. We're not playing. No. So, oh my golly, I'm so sorry, y'all. So you're looking at the whole staircase. So I want you to break it down. So Chelsea, will you unmute yourself for a second? Sorry, I did not tell you that we were gonna do this at all.
Yeah.
What is a goal that you have?
To go diamond.
Okay, fantastic. What's the first step that you need to do to get there?
Re-rank sapphire.
Okay. How would you do that?
By developing new leaders underneath me.
And how do you see, like, I could keep asking her, like, and how do you do that? And how do you do that? And how do you do that? You could go on until it's like, oh, well, I could do that today. Like, that's the first step that I can take, and I can do that right now. So when you, like, I want you to look at the big picture, but then slowly keep breaking it down. Does that make sense? Cool. So if you're taking notes, your first step is going to be figure out the goal. Your second step is going to figure out the first step. And step 3 is something that I really struggled with, and I've struggled with this for a long time, and I didn't understand it until like recently. But stop telling yourself there's a right and a wrong way to do it. And I don't mean like morally, like I think everybody on this call has really great morals. I mean, like, stop telling yourself you have to do X first because that's what you saw so-and-so do, right? There are a million ways to do something. Find what works best for you. Because what works best for you probably won't work best for me, right? Like, I was helping a lady try to figure out how she wanted to write a book. And she was like, well, I should probably find a publisher first. I'm like, why? She's like, well, because I saw that. I'm like, okay, well, how about you like brainstorm? She's like, well, I kind of want to write this one chapter first and then go from there. I'm like, that's great. Like, take bits and pieces until you get to the goal, because there's not a right and a wrong way to do it. There's just the way that you do it. And like, I know for me, when I was in high school, I was always like, I'm doing something wrong. Like, I would go from point A to point F, back to point B, probably all the way to Z, but I would end up getting it done. It just looked different than everybody else. Maybe I have a few screws loose, but that's whatever, and that's besides the point. That's how God made me, okay? I also want you to wake up believing you will have enough time and enough energy to do what God has called you to do today. I will say that one more time. Wake up every day believing that you will have enough time and enough energy to do what God has called you to do today. My best friend Nicole and I talk about this all the time. One of Nicole's biggest anxieties used to be is not having enough time, until she was like, I'll get it done. Like it'll get done. And I'm guilty of this too, but when I don't dilly-dally, because I'm a dilly-dallyer, when I don't dilly-dally and do the actual things that I know that I'm supposed to be doing, it's crazy. I suddenly have the energy, like once I check something off my list, I'm like, oh, heck yeah, let's do the next. Heck yeah, let's do the next. Heck yeah, let's do the next. But it's when I just sit there and be like, oh my God, I have so much stuff to do. Oh my gosh. Oh my, you're not gonna get it done. Just take it. No. Everything is y'all, everything is fine. It's our neighbors. They do this every day. We're good. So I also want you to remember that, like, people want to help with your goals, and it's okay to reach out and ask for help. That was something that I really struggled with. I didn't want to be a bother or a burden to anybody, but like, it's okay to ask for help. Harvey, don't eat that. Please don't. No. Okay. Oh my gosh, is this what it's like having kids? Woo, man. Chelsea's like, yes. Okay. He like tore out the stuffing of a toy and it was everywhere. Okay. So I want to go back to the goal setting that we were just talking about a minute ago. When you think about your goals, you have a 45% success rate. Okay. When you write down your goals, that goes up to a 56% success rate. When you share them with a friend, that goes up to a 64% success rate. Okay. When you check in with that friend for like weekly progress, that's a 76% success rate. That's crazy. Just by making those little tweaks to it, right? So the other part, and this is the not so fun part where I'm going to step on your toes again, but you have to take action. Okay. When you are walking in your God-given purpose, like, you have to take action. Like, yes, God is going to put you in the right spots, but you have to take action to get there. And James 2:17 says, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. You have to move. You have to move because it's also harder for the enemy to hit a moving target. Okay. I don't love that I said that like with everything going on, but it was just the next. Sorry. So, well, but it's true. The enemy cannot hit a moving target. Okay. And you can at some, sorry, I'm just laughing. And here's the other thing is, like, you can think and think all day long until the cows come home. You can sit and you can think and you can think, but at some point you have to just take the first step, and it will be terrifying, right? Like I said that earlier, like, don't let the devil make you think that your faith is fake because you're scared. Like, it's okay to feel fear, but don't be fear, because fear is fantasized experience appearing real. Okay. So that is like, the fear that we have it's not real. And when you think of fear, I also now want you to think of the best case scenario. Like, when a fear comes to your mind, think about what the best case scenario could be, right? Like, I was talking to Chelsea, and I am going to hit gold this month, but the fear is coming into my head that I'm not going to. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the best case scenario? The best case scenario is that I really do it and that God works in incredible ways. Okay. You also have to have high intention and low attachment. And this is hard for me because I feel everything so deeply, but I just need to have my intentions be really high and my attachment be low. The book that we're reading, The Gap and the Gain, talks a lot about this. And one of the things that I've really tried to tell myself a lot in the last year or so is, if it's not this, it's something better. Like, have y'all seen the pictures where it's like my plan and it's like one flower, and then it's like God's plan and it's an entire garden? Like, anytime I'm starting to stress myself out about something, I'm like, okay, like, if it's not this, then it's going to be something better. And that's lovely. And that's phenomenal. So when you're thinking about fear, it'll be hard at first. I'm not going to tell you that like from today on forward, you're literally never going to have fear, because I still have it all the time. But do your best to be like, okay, you know what? Like, if it's not this, then it is something better. Because trusting in God doesn't mean you will never have fearful thoughts, right? There won't always be seasons of pretty, but there can always be seasons of praise, right? And when God starts to answer your prayer, get used to being surprised. Not at just what he does, but what he does through you, right? So get used to being really surprised at what he does. And when you're taking these action steps, do what the faith-filled version of you would do, because that's the real you. Like, at the end of the day, the faithful Jesus girl you, that's the real you. That is the that is the you that God created. So when you're thinking of what to do that. Do what the faith-filled version, I can't say that sentence, but faith-filled version of you would do. This one I don't like at all, but action also looks like giving up the need to control everything. I'm a control freak. And being engaged to someone who is in the United States Army has forced me to give up control of my entire life like that. And that is something that I struggle with. And I don't know if it's because most of like my childhood, like my Bell's palsy, like I didn't have any control of my life. So I think in my adult life, I really craved control over everything. But action looks like giving up the need to control all of the outcomes, because sometimes when you try to control everything, then you're in control and God's not in control. And you have to step in faith. Like, sometimes you will be absolutely blinded, but you have to take that first step in faith, and your steps may feel uncertain, but God's direction will become clearer as you go. And doubts are mostly feelings, and faith is mostly action, right? I'll say that one more time because I stumbled over my words. Doubts are mostly feelings, and faith is mostly action, right? And I want you to do the thing that you would do if you knew 20 miles up the road, God was already at work, because he is. Like, all of this is already mapped out for us. I was just talking about this with a friend. I'm like, honestly, like, at the end of the day, like, it's going to be whatever God planned it to be regardless. Right? Harvey, drop it. Thank you. Don't do that. He's got my my pillow pet that I've had since I was like, yep, in high school. Harvey, can you bring it to me? Anyway, what was I talking about? Action, you have to step into faith. Yes. Oh, your steps may feel uncertain, but God's direction will become clearer as you go. I want to give y'all an analogy. Every time y'all get in the car and you plug in your GPS, 90% of the time, is it showing you the right way to go when you're in a parking lot? Like, does it show you that you're in the right way? No. But once you get turned around, it reroutes, and you still end up going where you needed to go in the first place. And that's how God works too. You just have to take that first step into action and let God deal with the things that you can't deal with, so that you can deal with all the things that he has called you to do. So to close this out, I want y'all to keep in mind that seeds have their own schedule, and so do God's promises. Okay? He can make a way for you. Victory in life is when you can shift and reset, embrace and pivot into what's next. And that is really hard for me. And also remember that God is making room for what's coming. I don't know what's coming for you, but like God will make room for it. And you have to trust that God wants to work with you. Keyword there, with you. And yes, the power comes from God, but you have a part to play. Like my friend Harvey, no, don't rip it apart. We're gonna have issues. Listen, mom is trying to talk good things, okay? And this is no bueno. No good. Next call, Chelsea. I promise I'll put him in his grave beforehand. He doesn't usually do this when I'm just at home. He is usually just fine, but apparently he's mad I'm not giving him attention, but whatever. So like I said, the power comes from God, but you have a part to play. Like nothing happens if you don't take that action and you don't take those steps. And focus on the possibility means that you keep your eyes on the hope set before you, not every little mistake that you've made, right? Because it's easy to also get caught up in the mistakes that we've made. And while you're walking in the purpose of what God has called you to do, you will face mountains. Like you will. I don't think that I need to tell anybody on this call that like you will face a mountain. Like that, yeah, you will face a mountain. And I think that everybody here has faced a mountain a time or two. But with that, are you spending more time telling God about how big your mountain is rather than telling your mountain how big your God is? I will say that one more time. Are you spending more time telling God how big your mountain is rather than telling the mountain how big your God is? Because you have greatness within you. Like every single person on this call, or if you're watching the recording, like you have greatness within you. You wouldn't be showing up to things like this if you didn't. And I hope that you'll walk away from tonight knowing that you were put on this earth with purpose, because each and every one of you, like God has equipped so specifically that you can't go wrong in that. And I want you to know that there is purpose in all of the things that he has planned. That's it.
Well, I think we could all just go like write a book now with all of these nuggets and notes you've just given us. Oh my goodness. I have so much Instagram content right here. Okay, I have a question and I'd love
Yeah.
to open it up for a little bit of Q&A if anybody else
Yes.
has questions too, from like a practical standpoint or about anything that you shared.
Yeah.
But my question is, what does this look like from a practical standpoint in your daily life? And certainly every day looks different for you, right? Like your daily schedule, your routine, but what does this look like over the past 7, 8, or even longer years that you would say you've been like actively pursuing God's purpose for your life, actively pursuing personal growth?
Mm.
What does that look like from a
Yeah.
practical standpoint in your life?
Yeah. So, like I said, like when I first joined Plexus was really when it was the pivotal moment for me. And I was young and very impressionable, which is great. And I'm not saying that like you can't still do it now, but I have a morning routine. Like I have a basket. Actually, I'll show you all my basket. Hold on. I've shared about my basket before, but so like this is my morning routine basket. The first hour of my day, and that may be excessive. I don't have kids right now, but if you do, you can find or try to find pockets of time. I'm not going to tell you that you can because I don't have kids, so I don't know what that looks like, but I know that like Oliver and I have talked about when we do have kids one day, he's like, you need to have your basket because if you don't, you will be a basket case. I'm like, correct. So the first hour of my day, my phone like I actually don't sleep with my phone in our bedroom. I use my iPad for my alarm, and my phone stays out here on the kitchen counter. I don't touch it for the first hour that I'm awake, because if I don't get right with myself, I can't get right with the world, and I'm not going to be the best version of me for everybody else, and that's not fair. So I start with my journal, and I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. That's the first thing that I do. And then I will just like write out what I'm feeling that day. Like sometimes I vent about things, but other things I say I don't have much, but I'm just really grateful for today. And amen. And that's that. And then my second one is a devotional. I usually am always in the middle of a 100-day or 90-day devotional. This one is really great. This is by Joyce Meyer, Battlefield of the Mind devotional. So I do this one, and then I scroll through my iPad on my vision board for 7 minutes. I call it 7 minutes in heaven, which I know that was like a game that we all played when we were younger, and it had very different meaning. I'm not making out with anybody in a closet. I'm just scrolling through my iPad. But that also sets the tone for my day. And then I read 10 pages of a personal development book. If you have not read the Boundaries book, do it. I know that some people like audiobooks. They're okay, but I can't take notes. I like to take notes. I like to highlight. So yeah, that's how I've been, and I don't miss a day. Like even when I'm traveling, like this stuff comes with me because I like structure and I like routine. So yeah. Did that
That's
answer that
amazing.
question?
We didn't even plan me asking her that question, and she just had a little basket to whip out.
Yeah, I
Um,
love my.
I think that just speaks so many volumes, because I'm hearing you share all of this, and it's like, okay, this is all of this is good, but how are we going to put this into practice in our
Yep.
life? And it comes down to discipline. It
Yes.
comes down to discipline and action. And what are you willing to do daily that you don't feel like doing? Because I'm sure there's mornings where you wake up and you'd rather scroll on the couch
Yep.
or take Oliver for a walk and skip your morning time.
Yeah.
But going back to something you said at the beginning of your talk was, what did I do or did not do when something doesn't go as planned? And finding that anchor in your day, like what is the action that's going to keep you on track, whether it's working your Plexus business, whether it's walking in your purpose, whether it's, being a good wife, being a connected mom, like what is the action that you need to be doing daily or weekly or whatever, however it applies, to make sure you stay in that vein. I think that's so wise.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, like it's discipline. Like I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock every day, but I know that if I sleep until 6 and miss, well, I can't even say that because I couldn't. I think it would like really derail me if I didn't do it. So I don't even want to say that I would like ever sleep in and not do it, because I've been doing it for 7 years. Like I've been doing it for so long, I couldn't imagine not doing it. I'm really curious to see like when we do have kids, like how I will need to pivot and change that. Not saying that like it can't be done, but it'll have to fit it. Like I can't get up if my baby just went to bed at 2 a.m. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, it's all about discipline. And I will say, go to bed when you say you're gonna go to bed. Like, put your phone down. TikTok is not that interesting. It is. It's funny, but like I put my phone on the counter 30 minutes before I need to go to bed, and I'm like, I'm done. Like I don't need to sit here. Like don't lay in bed scrolling, because then before you know it, it's 2 a.m. and you don't want to get up at 5 a.m. to do your morning routine because you didn't go to bed until 3 hours ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's discipline and things like that. Like it's short-term sacrifices for long-term success.
So good. So, so good. Who else?
Anybody else? Yeah, you can fire away. I'm clearly an open book. Go for it. No, no bark. Oh my gosh, y'all were blowing up the chat. Oh my goodness.
Megan said, stop calling me out. She sent that to me personally, but I think she meant to send it to everybody. So
Yeah.
true. So true.
Yeah.
Libby, this is so good.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
This was absolute gold. So, so good. I had so many personal convictions throughout this. And I know everybody else did too. So
Well, I'm just so grateful. This is truly my favorite thing to do. Really and truly, it's my favorite thing. I've dreamed of speaking on big stages, specifically at Plexus Convention, for what, like, even when I wasn't in, like, when I left the company, that was always like where I wanted to speak. So I would love for like next year, but yeah, I could do this all the time. All the
you
time.
have such a gift. You have such a gift for speaking to people and just sharing your heart. And we're so grateful you get to share your heart with us, Libby. Thank you. This was amazing.
I love y'all so, so much.
Awesome. Well, I'll send out the recording to this tonight as soon as it gets uploaded. And if y'all have any questions, just drop into Libby.
Beautiful. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.